And we're back behind the ranks today. Victoria and I are sitting in studio, and we have a special guest on telephone today. But say hey, Victoria.
Hey.
And I'm Michelle. We are really excited and honored that we get to have this phone interview today. And we're going to be interviewing a really amazing special friend of mine who I was so blessed enough to cross paths with about 10, 11 years ago. We first had an interaction at MOPS together at Shaw Air Force Base. And today we're here to just honor our Gold Star spouses and families. You know, it's something that we don't probably talk about as much as they deserve. They deserve the world, if you ask me. And coming up in April 5th to be exact, is our Gold Star Spouse Day. So we thought, no better way to, maybe honor them and have the privilege of speaking to, one of our Gold Star spouses herself. So today we have an special guest, like I said. Leigh is on the phone with us, and we're going to hand things over to Leigh, and she's going to go ahead and introduce herself and talk about her family. And we're just so excited, and it's going to be an amazing story that she has to share with some really awesome resources. So make sure that you hang on and listen to the whole thing, because I know that you're going to be honored and touched through it all as well. So go ahead, Leigh.
Oh, thanks, Michelle and Victoria, and thank you so much for having me on Behind the Ranks. It's a humbling and pleasure for a humbling pleasure. Is that even right to say? for you to even think of me and my family, and so I'm so thankful for that. I have been a enlisted significant other. I've been an officer's wife, and I am a Gold Star wife, which means that my husband that was serving in the military, he made the ultimate sacrifice, and he died while serving our country. So I don't even know if a lot of people in the military don't even know what Gold Star or Gold Star family.
Right.
So thank you for bringing that to attention with this podcast and everything. And I guess I'll start in the beginning. Nick and I were high school sweethearts. So when he was getting ready to graduate, his main goal was that he wanted to become a fighter pilot in the Air Force. To do that, you have to have a bachelor's degree, and he didn't want to go through the cost of having to pay for his own bachelor's degree. So he actually enlisted, and he was a communication and navigation specialist for the C-141, and he was eventually stationed at McGuire Air Force Base, which is 45 minutes from home for us, and 3 hours from where I was going to college. His goal, like I said, was to fly a fighter for the Air Force, and he worked hard. He actually got airman below the zone, and with all of his hard work and special projects and stuff that they put on that he got to participate in, he got out early on an ROTC scholarship, and he went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida, where he earned his bachelor's degree. While he was there, his assignment that he got dropped was actually a pilot slot, which he was an engineering degree major. And at the time, the Air Force was really in need of aerospace engineers. And so really for him to get a pilot slot was an answer to prayer and such a blessing for him and everything.
That's awesome.
So besides his pilot slot, he also was now sworn in as an officer in the Air Force. After that, we went to Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas, where he was in the NJET program, which is Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training Program. And after graduating, they actually kept him on as a FAPE, which is a first assignment instructor pilot, where he taught students in the T-37. After his time was up at Shepherd, he was sent to Kelly Air Force Base for the 10-month F-16 B course training. And after that, we went to our first mission qualified base in Sumter, South Carolina at Shaw Air Force Base. And after only being there for 3 months, Nick had a nighttime mid-air collision, and he died on impact. But he died doing what he loved, and he made his goal, his lifetime goal was fulfilled. So that is a really great, a great thing too to acknowledge and to know.
Yeah.
So with the accident, they didn't know if he had ejected. So for 44 hours, we waited as the Air Force and Coast Guard investigated and did a search and rescue above the water. At the time, my daughter was only 15 months old, and I was 5 months pregnant with my son. And this all happened when I was 33 years old. It's not exactly where I thought our lives were going to be going in the Air Force, but God knew otherwise and has blessed us each step of the way. I probably met Michelle about a year later in MOPS at Sumter. I mean, I'm not sure. I was in MOPS when that happened. Like I had gone to two sessions or so. Like, but I was a table leader the following year, and I think that's how we met because I think you were a table leader there too.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I'll go more into the accident and kind of what goes on.
Yeah.
That's okay. Is that a good way to?
Yeah. Or did you mention how long he had already served by the time the accident happened? Did you mention that?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's always hard for me to calculate because he did 3 years enlisted, and then when he was at Riddle, he was like an unassigned active duty, but he wasn't those years don't count, but he was still responsible to the Air Force. You know what I mean? So if you count those or not or whatever, but
I count it.
That's interesting to know, but I count it.
I would totally count it.
Calculating in my head quickly. This is going to be weird. Okay. So 8, 9. So like 10 years. He was already in about 10 years when the accident happened, around there.
And he had been a pilot how long then?
And he had only been a pilot for, if I count pilot training.
Yeah, we count it.
Okay. 5, like about 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Pilot training was like a year, and then he was at Shepherd for 3 years as an instructor pilot, and then he had 10 months of pilot training, and then it was like 3 months of that we were at Shaw at Mission Qualified Base.
Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, that is so cool that he, like fulfilled what what he really wanted to do. He really wanted to be a pilot, and he was, not many people are successful in doing that. So that is amazing that he was able to go for it and reach that goal.
It was kind of interesting. Right before he died, he said to me, he's like, Leigh, I've met all my life goals. It's like, I need to start making some new ones because I always looked forward to being a fighter pilot. And
he's like, here I am.
What else do I need to do? And I'm like,
goodness.
That's, well, we can talk about that and try to figure that all out. And, before we had a chance, he was looking at when I retire, maybe we can do mission aviation or, maybe he wanted to do medevac, kind of like something still flying, but serving other people. But yeah, we didn't get that far into that, but God had other plans for him. And, and I know he's being used greatly in heaven and, praying over, he's praying over the saints. He's praying over all of us down here. And so, so that's exciting too.
How old was he when he passed?
He was 32.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. He would have been 33 in December.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy.
I think it's amazing too that, like you said, we had met at MOPS as table leaders, but we were also neighbors and we didn't even know it for the longest time. We didn't even know we lived houses, just I don't know, probably 3, 4 maybe houses between us, not even that many. And then, we had met each other at MOPS.
You put your house up for sale, and I'm like, you in this neighborhood with me? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, oh. I'm like, I had no idea.
I know. I don't think I realized it till right before either. And it was dang, I wish we would have known sooner, but I know that we were, we crossed paths and, we became friends at a great time, but at the same like circumstance, it would have been like, man, that would have been like really nice to have known each other, sooner. But it's been amazing how much we've been able to stay in touch in Facebook, and just the influence and impact that you have made on my life since, and everything you're going to share today. I know that it's going to be such an impact on so many more people.
So Michelle, you met her after the accident, then when she was okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I got that correct.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
I know.
But it's so nice that you guys have stayed connected, and you built such a good friendship.
Yeah, she was in Vegas a year and a half ago, right? It was like
not last Christmas or this past Christmas, but the Christmas before.
Yeah,
so
before
fun.
we went into shelter.
Yes, I was gonna say, gosh, it'll be And we were able to get together when she came, and she came to church with our family, and it was nice to be able to catch up after so long. But
that is so nice.
It was such a sweet and sad story all at the same time. We appreciate you being able to walk back through that with us, and I know you said you were gonna discuss a little bit more.
I know, I think I cut you off. I was like hold on, wait. I backpedaled.
That's why we're here.
Bit.
That's why we're here to talk more about it, and share more about the inside of it. So you can go on, Leigh, and continue to share.
Okay, so on October 15th, 2009, Nick was flying a nighttime sortie, getting him ready for deployment in January. They had actually him and his lead had finished their sortie, and they were coming back to fingertip formation to fly back to Shaw Air Force Base. Later, I found out that when you go back to fingertip formation, it takes only 30 seconds. But in those 30 seconds, Nick had realized that his radar was cycling on and off, and he was communicating this to his lead pilot ahead of him. During his sortie, he didn't need radar, so he didn't realize that it wasn't working well. But when you go back to fingertip formation, which is only your wings are 3 feet apart from one another, you kind of need to know radar-wise where the other plane is at. So since his radar wasn't working, he had in his night vision goggles, he placed his lead's plane. He lined his plane up with his lead's plane, which led him to, he was too close to the other plane. So he wound up hitting the bomb holders on the bottom of his lead's plane, and he wound up dying instantaneously. But the lead pilot had saw that Nick's plane had wobbled side to side before crashing into the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Charleston. So at the time, they weren't sure that if Nick had ejected from his aircraft or not prior to him hitting the lead's plane. Mm-hmm. So they started a search and rescue immediately. And that meant the lead plane pilot, he punched in the coordinates so that they knew exactly where Nick's plane was, and they brought other planes in that were doing sorties close from within the area, close to them, so that they can fly and they could start to look for Nick, and in case he was alive and on top of the water, he knew he wasn't alone. But there's so many different things that start to happen where they start to report back to base, and they get other reports going, or they call the Coast Guard, and they get involved with doing search and rescue as well. But one of the first things they also did was they contacted the lead's wife to tell her that that pilot was in an accident, but that he was okay. He actually was able to land in Charleston, which was a complete miracle, because a lot of times when another plane hits a plane, both of them go down. You know what I mean? And so that was totally God protecting Lee Bryant and his plane and that family, and I'm forever thankful for that. That there wasn't two families that were mourning a death. And the accident actually happened at 8:30 at night. By the time they got to my house, it was 11:30 p.m. because they were getting everything kind of all going, and then they came to tell me. And when I answered the door, the wing commander, squadron commander, chaplain, and the flight doctor were there. And they came in to tell me that there was an accident, that one plane had landed, but Nick's plane had went down into the Atlantic. and they weren't sure if he had ejected, so that they were going to they were doing a search and rescue above the water. If everything went perfectly well for Nick after he had ejected, and if his what's it called, raft or whatever had blown up and everything like that, that he could survive on top of the water for 44 hours. And let me tell you, those were the longest 44 hours of my life.
I bet.
Yeah. So they also called a spouse from my squadron that knew me pretty well. I was still really new to the squadron and to the F-16 community. I had only been to 2, maybe 3 squadron events. One being a spouse tea or coffee or something like that. And so I didn't really know the girls in my squadron very well, but I had connected really well with Ashley. And so that's who they called. Ashley came to the house and she stayed with me for the night. The next day was also really hard and busy. There were several briefings to keep me and my family informed of what was going on. We had lots of family that were coming in from out of town. And so it was kind of a chaotic, busy kind of day. I was kind of in this state where I didn't exactly, I didn't understand why are people coming here? We don't even know what's going on. I don't know if we're going to the hospital or if we're going to be planning a funeral. You're in such shock. You're not kind of grasping the full intention. I even remember, our Bible study leader's wife called me and she's like, "Hey, Leigh, I know you have family coming into town. Is there anything that I can pick up for you? So you don't have to worry about running to the store or anything." And I remember opening up the refrigerator thinking "Oh, I think we're okay." I'm like, "Can you maybe pick up some lemon juice? That way I have stuff to make lemonade in case, so we have something other than water to drink." And, I think that was a pretty big cue to them. Okay, she has no idea.
Right. I don't think anybody would though. I don't think anybody would be, just
and,
a great state of mind.
But, and I'll explain a little bit later about people just providing and stuff. But at this time too, accidentally Nick's name was released to the media before our entire family knew about what was going on. Our immediate family knew that Nick was in an accident, that we were not sure what was going on. We didn't know where he was, but my aunt and uncle and cousins and stuff like that, they hadn't been informed. And so some of our family found out because of the news media, the little news ticker on the bottom. And then they started running on the media. They started running, he was part of the news. The accident was part of the news. His name was released and they were talking about our family, which was weird. We were a very private family. And so for this to be kind of a public thing was really weird. But what happened was that then, since his name was released accidentally, the pilots in our squadron, they wound up taking shifts around the clock to kind of guard our home from the media, which the media never found our house because our neighborhood was one of a newer neighborhood. So
the address never comes up. I remember that.
Thank goodness.
And I was yes, because we had been praying for that. With us being such a private kind of family, I didn't want cameras on my lawn, and
it would feel like a circus, and how stressful. I can't even imagine. That would be so stressful.
Yeah.
Goodness.
They also answered the phone for me because we had a lot of reporters calling, and then they would just kind of direct them to public relations on base so that they can get information from them, and not that I was having to give statements and things like that. The wives also took shifts around the clock to be there to help, either with me or, I guess there wasn't much to help with me, but Grace, my daughter, they helped her a lot, watch after her or my family, whatever might be needed. They were just there to be hands and feet, and they even scheduled spouses to stay the night so I wouldn't be alone at night. a lot of times, or well, towards like after we had found out that Nick had died, like I started sending our family home at night just so I could keep regular bedtime routine with a 15-month-old. Like it needed to happen. Like she needed quiet in the house, and we had a lot of family in town. So that kind of helped kind of keep things as normal as we could. Also, my squadron commander's wife, she was awesome. She was always checking in on me, especially to see how I was doing emotionally. She was a psychologist, like a school psychologist, so she kind of had that, like, the counseling background. And so she was just super great about, like, you know, it's okay, and this is hard. Like, she acknowledged and that what I was going through was super hard, and that it was okay to not try to keep it together, or, you know, if I felt kind of lost, and that was okay. That was an okay feeling to have. And that kind of gave me that permission to be able to lose it if I needed to. You know what I mean? Like, fall apart and not be like all smiles and it's going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. Right? Like, not okay. This is not okay.
Right.
It was all right to be. And also, my wing commander's wife, she was also great, and she came around a lot too, just to hang out. Especially, I remember at night, like she was there at night to kind of just talk, and she made it kind of easy. Like I didn't feel like it wasn't always like, how are you? It was like, you know, light conversation, and that was nice to have as well.
Right.
Food and drinks just seemed to appear, and I have no idea how. I mean, my living room became like this buffet station for everything all the time. And I'm assuming that it was all probably between the squadron and the church, and maybe even mobs. I don't know, but I'm so thankful for all the people that just came and just provided. Like, they didn't ask, they just did. And at that time, that's exactly what I needed, and my family needed as well.
Yeah.
And the wing commander, throughout this, he always made sure that my family and I were kept up to date with what was going on. He warned that the media could skew things, and that everything that he was telling us was coming from direct sources, whether it was the Coast Guard or whatever was going on with the search and rescue. He was kind of the deliverer of that news. Yeah. And so he would brief us first, and then he would have a press meeting on TV. So this was really comforting to me and to my family to know that we knew the truth. Like, it makes such a big difference knowing that you're being told the truth and the complete truth when you're walking through something really hard. And one of the things to help with that is, like, I told them, no, like, we're not going to watch any, there's not going to be the news on all the time. The only thing I think they had on the TV was the World Series. So I think the guys put the World Series on so lot. But other than that, there was no media on at the house, which made it helpful that we weren't like, why didn't we hear about that? Or, you know, I knew exactly what was going on. And after they had enough evidence to say that Nick had died on impact, many things then started to happen after that. Besides, they started doing a search and rescue beneath the water, and that was to collect, like, plane parts and his personal items and things like that. To that they actually, it was kind of interesting. The plane parts wind up going into a hangar. They put it in order of where it should be on the plane. And then they investigate and analyze it. They do studies on it so that they can see, they can make flying safer for pilots later down the road. They see how it impacts the plane, and also, like, you know, what exactly happened. They can try to look into that in that kind of investigation to see what was going on with Nick's plane and why did it wind up down in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
But for as far as stuff that was going on in my life, they first assigned a pilot from our squadron to me for a year. He was our FLO, our family liaison officer. He was someone who knew Nick pretty well, and Todd told me, even though he was assigned to me just for a year, that to consider him, that he was my FLO for life. and still, like, his job was to act as a liaison between me and the Air Force.
Yeah.
His main duty was to help me through all the estate things that had to be done regarding Nick's death, as well as get me transitioned into civilian life. And let me tell you, with being pregnant and having a little one running around, like, he was a complete lifesaver. I would have not known exactly what to do and how to get it all done in time before having a newborn in the house. And, you know, I can still count even on Todd now. Like, if I have a question or need advice about something, if I want to, I know I can call him or I can call his wife, Jessica, and, you know, they'll help me as best as they can and answer my questions and everything. So, you know, I am so thankful for him and his family and the way they, like, you know, they just continue to love and support us as a Gold Star family these last 11 years. I mean, like, they're just amazing.
Yeah.
They also assigned another pilot in our squadron to help plan the base memorial service that was going to happen a week later. And I'm still really close with this family too. They are just awesome people. Actually, it's the squadron wife that came that first night, Ashley, her husband was the one that helped plan the memorial service. And I can still go to them and, you know, we talk and, yeah, I can ask them for advice or prayer and, you know, they're always there. They love and support us as well still. And I'm just so thankful again for them as well. Like, I'm just thankful for everybody that just, you know, we were in a time of really big need. And,
yeah, I'm just so happy that, like, the Air Force, like, thought to provide these people.
I know, it's so comforting to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also right away, you meet with mortuary affairs.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where they help you set everything up from the memorial on base to the funeral. Nick is buried at Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And then it's, you know, everything financial and insurance wise, and not just for me, but for my kids too. And they took care of all that stuff for me and for Grace. And then when Caleb was born, they met with me again and explained it all to me again, because by that time I wasn't very clear on a lot of things, because, you know, when that stuff's going on, your mind's a little chaotic.
In a fog.
I was going to say, I was like, the information would be really like, oh gosh. Yeah, I can't imagine. That'd be a lot of information to try to, like, yeah, I don't know. There's no way. Oh, goodness.
But yeah, I mean, like, but in the end, I mean, the Air Force has truly taken really good care of us. And, yeah, I'm thankful that they really support and love their Gold Star families. They really want to take good care of them.
Yeah.
And everything. So, yeah.
It's so important to know. I mean, not that I would ever wish that upon anybody, but it's, you know, there's just a different feeling now knowing that you guys are well so taken care of, and, you know, hopefully all of our Gold Star families, you know, are getting all that love and support, and just having somebody to call on, like you said, like even now, like, you know, that you can still call on them, you know, for any questions or advice that you might need. That's just awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Do you still have like a dependent ID card and stuff? Obviously, I don't know anybody else in your shoes.
Yes, I still have a dependent ID card. As long as I'm not remarried, I still have access to, like, commissary, and you know, I always ask if they have, like, if I'm in a shop, like, hey, do you give a military discount? Or, you know, they still give that to me. And my kids actually, once Nick dies, unlike active duty military kids that get their ID cards at 11, they get theirs right away. So my kids have always have ID cards that I hold on to for them.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That would be silly. But yeah, in fact, I think I'm due this summer to re-up our cards.
Oh, fun. Oh, that'll be a chore. Oh, goodness.
So besides the pilots and the families that have been able to keep you in the loop and support you, like how are you still, or are you still connected with some of the active duty spouses that maybe you had met prior to the accident, or how's that connection like nowadays? Is it still there? Are you still trying to hang on to it, or is it like a part of your life that maybe that chapter, needs some closure?
Yes, I am still connected with some of the active duty spouses. It's nice that I still have friends because I really, truly do miss the military life, and it's nice to see what's going on, but it can also be kind of hard too. Like when big promotions are going on or husbands are coming back from deployment, like my heart is still sometimes wishing like I can celebrate those things with Nick.
Yeah.
So instead, I know he'll forever be a captain, and, he's eternally deployed, I guess, in heaven
Yes.
instead. So, but I can still, like, God still places military wives in my path all the time. I mean, between church or even like my kids, I sent them before we started our podcast interview. I sent them to a neighbor's house, and we happened to meet last summer at the playground or whatever. They had just moved here. I found out that we had a connection from South Carolina because she is a Marine military wife.
Oh, wow.
And so like we've gotten really close really quick, and like, just her being in a new area, I'm able to say, hey, like, have you tried out this place, or come on over for dinner? Like, her husband's getting ready to deploy this fall, so I know, like, we'll probably hang out and have dinners together and stuff like that. So I can still be a support to people that are in the military as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but like, sorry.
That's okay.
Awkward pause.
I do have a question. So when Nick's accident happened, was social media like a big thing then? Like this was I don't know, like how
just the new, like you mentioned, the news and stuff, but that's obviously a little bit slower than social media. So how was that a factor, or was it a factor?
Oh, well, okay. So I think Facebook was pretty popular then. Let's see. That is an interesting question. So when Nick's accident was happening, he was on the news. I think when Ashley was at the house, I realized, like, I think it was like around 3:00 in the morning, that this would probably be a public type thing. And I Googled like F-16 plane crash, Sumter, South Carolina, or Shaw Air Force Base or something like that. And it was already international news.
Wow.
They just didn't have his name released. And then later that morning, they released his name. And then that kind of went like wildfire as far as people knowing. That night, I had emailed a bunch of like prayer warrior friends to say, hey, this is what's going on. Please pray. I have no idea what's going on. Like, I don't know if he's alive or dead. And like, just pray for the people that are searching and rescue, like in search and rescue, and pray for our family and our whole squadron. And because it affected everybody.
Yeah.
And then at that time I had Facebook. Like I had just gotten, I think, on Facebook maybe for a year or so. Okay. And, the media a lot of times took, because Facebook is a public, like a public way to say things. So whatever's on your Facebook is like, if the media wants to pull it, pictures, quotes, anything. And they started doing that, which made me feel violated, because I wasn't doing it for them. I was doing it for my family and friends to kind of,
Right.
let them know what was going on, or just say thank you for being there for us and those kinds of things. And so actually from that experience and later down the road too, like when other F-16 accidents had happened, or Memorial Day was coming up, whatever, they, especially TV media, they have the right to rerun the accident information anytime they want. And they had done that. We had a spouse that was a news anchor for the local news station, and she would always like contact me ahead of time and say, hey, listen, they're going to do this. And I would even say to her, I don't want that. Like, there's no reason for the accident to be re-pulled up and to be replayed like that. I mean, it's a trigger for me. It's a trigger for other people too, because they experienced it. Like, we still had people in the squadron that had been there when the accident happened, and I didn't think it needed to be done. And she's like, I'll bring it to my manager. But she's like, but the news story is already ready. And so even though I was requesting for it not to be run, it was their right, and they would run it. So
that's such a
as a
shame.
family member, you don't really have
like a say in it necessarily. It's just, gosh. I know. I was picturing like if this was today, like I was like, my goodness, I imagine your Facebook would have a million notifications on it. And I was like, I wouldn't have the energy to like give towards any of that. I was like, I can't even imagine. So I wondered if you had like seen any of that, like ping in your phone. You're like notification, ping, ping, ping. And you're like, oh my goodness, somebody saved me from my phone. Or you just like put it in a drawer and lock it away or something. I just, but,
smartphones, at least at that point, we didn't have smartphones.
Right.
Like,
remember the day when there was a flip phone, actually. I could turn that off like pretty easily. Oh, goodness gracious.
I did have a regular phone with text. And so, and email was big. I had
this is actually interesting to talk about. Oh my goodness. I had a pager actually, Oh goodness. Oh gosh. Okay, sorry.
I had one friend who throughout the whole entire time of like the 44 hours, I think like every hour she would send me scripture and a special message or whatever, just so I knew I wasn't alone. And I didn't I didn't see it all the time. It was usually at night when everything had quieted down. For those 44 hours, like I tried sleeping one night or that first night in my bedroom, and I couldn't. Like, I had a wedding picture up, and I share a bed with Nick. Like, that it wasn't something that I couldn't sleep there. So I moved myself up to the guest bedroom and I up there. And Yokers was still downstairs in her room, and we had extra people around. So I felt comfortable, like, if I couldn't get to her quickly, somebody could, but I could always get there. You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't going to be alone. So at night I would check my emails, and I had a lot of emails, more so than text. And like I said, my one friend, she would send me these encouraging messages in scripture, letting me know I'm not alone, and that she had tons of people praying for us, like her church, and her parents had their church, and like I just had this spiritual support group that was kind of going to God for me, that I had people that I probably didn't even know pray. Like, I had lots of people I didn't know praying for us and our in the situation at hand. And that, I think that's how I kind of had a lot more peace during it. I knew I had to keep my stress level down because I was pregnant, and I didn't want to jeopardize anything with Caleb as well. I had another friend, especially like she would call me once or twice a day just to check in on me, make sure everything was okay, like an old time friend. And after Nick had died for a while, because 6 months before she had just lost her dad. And so they understood, and especially her mom was super supportive of me after I lost Nick. because she had just lost her husband too. So it was kind of neat. I had never met her mom before because she was a military friend. And but the way like her mom could minister to me and support me and love me because she understood where I was at was just amazing. And like Hannah, she every day she would just send me an email about what she did that day. Like I kind of like that way I could take my mind off of all the craziness and chaotic, non-normal life of what was going on in my world, and I could be like, oh, that's so fun. She went to the park with the kids. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that was fun. Oh my gosh, my child's done that too. Like, I kind of feel a little bit normal in that sense. And that was so helpful for me to kind of normalize a bit, you know what I mean? Because life was not feeling normal
I bet.
at all. So media-wise, that was super helpful for me. I also fasted from like watching TV for like a year and a half because it was just too much. I didn't want to me, the news was everybody's bad things that were going on in people's lives that were broadcast over to the public. Like, because that was what it was for me.
Yes.
And I want to partake in any of that. I spent a lot of time reading at night, actually Karen Kingsbury books. So I kind of take myself out of my life too. Like, I don't know. I guess I wanted to be in denial a little bit and like put myself in these characters' lives. And that was actually helpful for me. But she's a Christian author, so she would put scripture in there, and that was really helpful too. Because I don't know, like Jeremiah 29:11, like the plans that God has for us are good. Like that was reiterated in her books a lot, and I needed that reminder. Like life is good. Right. God's plan for us is good. The things He has planned for us now, in the past, or in our future is good, and that was just really helpful for me. So
it's so good to hear that there were like the pros to having your phone or having, the email accessibility and texts, and that people still tried to, step in and bring some normalcy, to you. I mean, that's great advice for anybody who may be going through, grief of their own or walking with somebody, on their journey too. I mean, what else have you been able to experience since the accident, like as far as support groups? I'm sure there's other, Gold Star spouse groups and families out there that, are walking through this together.
Yeah. So, gosh, it was pretty soon after Nick's accident. I was on Facebook one night and I got a message from another Gold Star wife. And she just explained how, I don't know you, you don't know me, that kind of thing. But, I heard about your husband's accident. I'm also a military spouse and lost my husband. And she was also pregnant with a baby when she lost her husband, and that she was there, to kind of walk alongside of me if I had questions or whatever. Oh my gosh, that was so helpful knowing I had someone there. I mean, the squadron had gotten some calls with names, or TAPS, which is Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, had reached out, but it was so overwhelming. Like, I didn't know exactly what would I say if I called these people, like these wives, right? What I don't even know what I need. Like, how am I going to ask questions or talk with them? It was just too much. But for her to take that step and to just say, hey, here's my story and I'm here for you. Like, Christy is just awesome that way. And and so I just remember, like, one night out of the blue after she had sent this, like, I messaged her and I'm like, does it always feel this way? Like, am I always going to feel like I'm in a whirlwind and like that, like my heart is ripping out of my chest? Like, is it always going to feel this hard? And she encouraged me to say, like, no, it's not always going to be like this. Like, after it's hard, but you learn to kind of deal with the hard. You learn to deal with the loss and the grief, and the waves of grief aren't going to be crashing down on top of you as much. Like you'll always grieve, but it won't be always like this. And I followed like her example. So there's been way too many pilots that have died, but if I can, I always reach out and I try to contact the spouse, whether they have kids or not. Like it doesn't matter. Loss is loss, and I understand those first days well. And after a while, especially like after the first few years, I had a lot of wives individually I was trying to kind of keep in touch with. And my one friend, who's also a military widow, Tammy, our husband, actually, Nick was an instructor pilot for her husband, Dee, and then they kept Dee on as a FAPE as well. So Nick and Dee got to know each other well, and I kind of got to know Dee a bit more than I got to know Tammy, because Tammy was also active duty spouse. And so at the time when we were at Shepherd, I think she was stationed somewhere else, and I'm not sure I think she might have gotten to go to Shepherd to work, but we had left before that. So I had met Tammy, but I didn't know her very well. But after her husband had died and I knew who she was and I knew Dee, and I had pictures with him and stuff like that I could share with her, I reached out to her. And after several years, she thought, hey, why don't we make a private Facebook page called Widows of Heroes? And it's pretty much like a support group for aviation military widows. It is so helpful just to know that we have each other. We understand the feelings, and we have resources we can share with each other. You can ask the hard questions that is hard for us to ask other people that don't understand, kind of because they haven't walked through it. Dark humor is encouraged. I mean, like we, and every year, I mean, we add way too many people. It's not a group I ever want anybody to ever have to join, but if you're going to join, I'm glad that we have each other. We kind of love and support each other well. We have questions about our kids going through grief that we can answer or kind of bounce ideas off of, or just vent about, just those kinds of things. So now we have that, but there are so many different kinds of organizations. I know I haven't really taken advantage of a lot of these things, especially since my kids were so small when everything happened. But I was kind of researching this week a little bit, because I thought, wow, it would be wonderful for your listeners and stuff to know some of these great organizations, so that they can share them with others that they might know or know in the future that are going to become Gold Star family members, or, maybe they want to even donate to them or something to help their cause if they feel led or whatever. But let's see, some of the things like that are dear to my heart are specifically for Gold Star wives. There's Holbrook Farms Retreat. This is, hold on, on my notes there. It's located, Holbrook Farms is located in the Detroit Lakes in Minnesota. It was the first retreat that I ever got to go on after Nick had died. Let's see, I think Caleb was only like 3 or 4, and we were the first Survivor Heroes retreat that they ever had. They kind of used Widows of Heroes members to kind of
test it
figure out hey, how can we do this? So we were the guinea pigs, but the people there are so wonderful. It's a nonprofit charity. They're dedicated to providing an all expense paid wellness getaway for military widows that have lost their loved one in service. They provide opportunities to get away and spend time with those that have gone through similar tragedies. helping them through their healing process, which when you get to be with other, I mean, when you get to be with other people that have walked that road, it's just, it's so nice because you kind of normalize yourself. You know what I mean? Like, my kids, and then I'll go through some others because I kind of asked on Widows of Heroes, like, hey, what are you guys being a part of? And because I know I don't take advantage of a lot of these things, and so they gave me some input as well. But one of the big ones too, like my kids, actually, Grace has gotten to go and be a part of this camp. Caleb, this will be his first year, but when Grace was the first year, they had like a mom's first year mom's retreat as well. But Knights of Heroes, they are in like the Colorado Springs area. They host families with losses, allowing them to share experiences and building relationships while increasing public awareness and ensuring that the families with losses are not forgotten with the passage of time. They empower children who have lost their fathers in service to our nation by providing positive adult mentorship, character development, and lasting friendships forged during an annual wilderness adventure camp. And I mean, Grace loves it there. Like, she can't wait every year. Caleb is so excited to go. They hike, they do whitewater rafting. She's shot guns before. Like, they do all these like adventure type things that help to show that they can overcome anything, but they also want to make sure that they don't use their grief as a crutch. Like, they're owed, like society owes them because they lost their dad. They don't want that. And they're also a Christian organization. They have a chaplain on hand that will go and talk about the hard things. And a lot of kids, especially like, I know with my kids, they might question, like, why would God do this? Like, is God good? That kind of thing. Those hard questions that as a parent I have to deal with, but it's nice to have the backup of somebody else to say the same things I'm saying as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So those are like, those are two great like retreat things that my family has been blessed to be able to be part of. There's an organization called the River Rats. They ensure that aviation children, Gold Star children, have money, like a 529 college fund set up so that they will not have to worry about, hopefully not worry much about college in the future for them.
Yeah.
So they have, and they also offer scholarship for like me as a spouse if I go back to school and I need help with things like that. The VA also has a GI, like not only the GI Bill, but they have, I think they have two other scholarships that you have to choose between one or the other, with helping to pay for school. So like right now, as I'm doing my graduate studies, I have a VA scholarship that's paying 100% of my tuition.
That's amazing. And
they give me a little stipend for books as well, which doesn't usually cover all of the costs for my books. But, it's nice to have that supplement because otherwise I probably would never have that, right? So
it's so good to hear how much they can still take care of your family.
Yeah. What are you studying?
I'm in seminary and I'm about to graduate in May. I'm doing a biblical and theological studies master's degree. Yeah. But I'm hoping in the fall to start a marriage and family counseling degree because I want to do counseling. I feel God's calling me to have a practice that's specific for people going through grief and loss and trauma, as well as pairing it with a kids and family grief camp, so that eventually, hopefully, we'll have one big piece of land with both things on there. So you can come and have support group or individual kind of holistic therapy on the property, and then also have a grief camp that, we can run different grief camps throughout the year. But that's all still dreaming.
I love that though. I mean,
Yeah.
I knew that, and I guess that's like my excitement in being able to talk to you today. I mean, it's not obviously exciting to hear about what you've been through, but it's so exciting to see how you've overcome it and how you're going to use that to better yourself and better the lives of so many other people. I mean, you're probably like the most selfless person I have ever met. I mean, all that you do and have done and continue to just serve in just such a faithful and strong way. I mean, it's just so encouraging. I know I tell you that all the time, but just for everybody else to be able to experience that with us today, it excites me.
Yeah.
It excites me so much. I can't wait to see. I know you're going to have that property one day, and you're going to build this camp, and you're going to have the most amazing retreats and opportunities for so many families. I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yay. And I know I can have you come and be a counselor
Yay.
at camp.
I was just thinking that. I was like,
I know, we talk about it.
Hire Michelle. That'd be amazing.
We talk about it. I'm like, yes, one day we're gonna live out that dream together, Leigh. I know we are. I know that, God placed you in my life at exactly the right time, and just being able to be a part of your story a little bit and share it with everybody else. It's like I said before, it's an honor. It truly is an honor to know you and to know your kids, and to know Nick's legacy is amazing.
Oh, well, thank you. But honestly, I really feel like, God creates us for whatever he has in place in life, and to grow us the way we need to be grown, or to allow us to do his work and show how he reigns, right? And so, what you see isn't a reflection of me, but of what Christ has done in me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I bet anybody, like I said, I don't want anybody ever to be a part of this Gold Star family. But if you're ever placed in that kind of situation, like, people will tell me, like, you're so strong, and I'm like, no, I just, like, you just have to keep going. You have to keep doing, like, whether you feel strong or not, life still happens, and you still have to take one foot step in front of the other. And I think, like, we all kind of just survive those kinds of things. We all have hard things that happen in our lives, whether it's a loss of a spouse or whatever else might be going on in your life, and you kind of have to just go with the flow with it, right? And so that's kind of what I've done for the last 11 years. And I have to be intentional with certain things, and I might deal with different things with kids and questions and things that typical 11 and 12-year-olds might not ask, but yeah, I was created for this, right? Like, God created me for that. And so that's what I stand on, and that's what I hold on to him. He's my strength. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Hey, quickly, what do your kids kind of make of all of it? Do they, I don't know, I guess I want to know, like, I don't know, how do your kids kind of perceive what happened, or like continues to happen, or anything?
Well, I have two children that treat things differently. So one of my kids is like, well, I mean, both of my kids don't know Nick, right? Like, Grace was 15 months old when everything happened. She just remembers from pictures that I show her and stories I tell her. And Caleb, I mean, he was still in utero when the accident happened. So the cool thing about Caleb is, like, Nick, we found out 2 weeks before Nick died that we were having a boy, and so Nick actually named Caleb. So he knows his name comes from his dad, like, and why he picked the names he picked for him. And so there, I mean, like, I have a handful of pregnancy pictures of all of us together, like, and so, like, that's what Caleb has as far as I tell him stories about like, oh, we found out you were a boy. Like dad reacted like this and said this, or like his stories are kind of different. So, and he's a boy. Like he wants to know everything about his dad because he's coming to that age where boys look up to their dads to figure out the man that they're going to become, right? And so Caleb is lately he's been asking me like, what's your favorite kind of questions? Like, what's your favorite this and what's your favorite that? What was dad's favorite of this? And just trying to figure out like, who are these people so I know who I can become. And so he's all about like finding out about dad and wanting to do stuff like dad did, or you know what I mean? Like he's trying to find his identity in his dad himself too. Where the other one is like, I don't even remember him, and it's not that I'm trying to be mean, but like, I don't know him. Like it's hard to remember, or not that she doesn't care about her dad, but it's hard to connect to somebody she doesn't ever know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of have like two ends of the spectrum going on. I think as she gets older, I think there's hurt, there's hurt there. There's hurt that, why is she in this kind of situation? Why is she different than other kids her age? Why doesn't she have a dad? That kind of thing. Like, questions for God, that kind of things that she tries to grapple with at 12. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just curious on how like they were, I don't know how they sort of have come along this, I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, not any of us want to try to put ourselves, in their shoes and perceive things, it's their story, it's their feelings, they're probably never going to be the same, have the same feelings towards it or feel the same as another child, but it's unique to them. So that's important to recognize.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like her first year, when Nick died, we had a memorial service in New Jersey at home too. And I made a slideshow for that. And for a good year, every time we ate at the table, because that's where I kept my laptop, she wanted to see the slideshow. She wanted to hear the stories. She wanted, I think in her little, she was only 15 months old when everything happened. She didn't want to forget her dad in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, if they're that little, they still grieve. They don't exactly understand what's going on, but kids still grieve no matter what age. When you have a parent in the house and then all of a sudden you don't, things change. And especially like, their right brain memory, which is more of like the feelings and the like the feelings that are going on, that memory starts in utero. So like, it's kind of interesting, even when our heaven anniversary is coming around, my kids all react in some way with grief, even though they don't remember or weren't. I mean, like Caleb he was a part of the incident, but he wasn't. But he felt my feelings. You know what I mean? And Grace didn't really understand what was going on, and she was a part of the incident, but she was too young for her left brain to have those real static memories, you know what I mean?
Right.
But she has feeling memories. And so, I mean, like they both kind of grieve still. I've had people tell me in the past, like, oh, you're so lucky they were too small to remember any of this, and that they don't, like,
as if
kind
it's
of like
easier.
They don't, like easier because they don't remember and they don't grieve. And I'm like,
and you're like, actually, it's not like easier. I don't know. I wouldn't consider us like lucky, but
just because they remember their dad doesn't mean they didn't have a dad, and that and I think sometimes their grief is more about like their difference of not having a dad in their life and knowing my kids don't understand what it's like to have a dad in their family because
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They don't understand, like, you know, Caleb's never had his dad play ball with him, or Grace has one picture of her dad dancing in the living room right before he died, and that's her one and only daddy-daughter dance. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's just things they mourn that are a little different than others that might have had, you know, had more memories of their dad, but they still great.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was there anything else, Leigh, that I just have a couple more questions, but before we get to those, is there anything else that you would like to share with us, whether it's something resourceful or that you went through that you just find that is valuable to share with others today?
well, I am giving you guys a list I found on the internet, which was We Are Here Operation. .com, and it has a great resource list in case you ever have anything, like the listeners ever have anybody in their squadrons, or they know anybody, or maybe they unfortunately join our Gold Star family. This link it's the most comprehensive list of resources, camps, and that kinds of things for wives and or families, spouses, children. It even has a lot of things for wounded warrior and active duty as well. There's other programs out there for like your families as well that might be helpful. And I think you were going to probably put that in a link somewhere.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
On there. So I won't go through all of those because I mean there's lots of stuff. They don't have a lot of scholarship things listed. So like if children especially are looking for scholarship money for college tuition and our Gold Star child, there's places like Folds of Honor, Children of the Fallen, Folded Flag. What else? That offer like lots of different kind of scholarship opportunities. There's a organization called the Soldier's Child that offers not only camp, but they also help celebrate kids' birthdays by sending them personal gifts.
That's nice.
Like I am so humbled by the things that people do. The Gary Sinus Foundation offers so many different kinds of programs for wounded warrior, but also the fallen families. They even there's an organization called Be Still Ministries that they partner with, and they offer a retreat called Widows of Heroes, which is specific for Gold Star families and also first responder families that have lost someone. They also in that organization, they have Snowball Express, which is like a fun long weekend. They've now started to do it at Disney to give kids a chance to not only get together and be with other kids that understand what they're going through, but also have like a fun experience and know that they've been thought of.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know, and that foundation also does HOPE, HOPE, which is urgent need assistance with helping like maybe pay bills or buy groceries for those that are in need as well. I mean, there's so many different kinds of resources out there. But if you do experience walking through somebody that has lost someone, I mean, we're all going to walk through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some kind of helpful things I can offer for you to like ideas is that just be there, just listen. Like you don't have to do anything, you don't have to say anything. A lot of times if you can just be there with that person, like so many times people will kind of get freaked out and not know exactly what to do or what to say, and then they will also, besides me like losing my husband, a lot of times I've lost friends just because they didn't know exactly how to deal with the loss, or they put themselves in that space, or it's just too hard for them, and we remind them of the loss of their friend or whatnot. And so really the best thing I can say is just be there, just to listen. Also maybe anticipate needs. A lot of times those that are going through the loss, our minds are so chaotic. We're at a moment to moment kind of time, just trying to figure out like, okay, what do we do next? Or it's not even like, what am I going to do down the road or a week from now or anything. So offer help where you see it. Like if they have a kid, you might want to offer, hey, why don't you drop off CCQ to my house, and that way you can run some errands on your own, like go grocery shopping or have some time for yourself. Because as a parent going through loss and grieving, it's hard because you don't have a lot of time on your own to grieve because you're taking care of kids and dealing with their grief as well. And then, I mean, like maybe their husband needs to take care of doing the yard work and the outside, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can say like, my husband's going to come over today and just mow the lawn and edge it for you. Is that okay? And, they would, I don't know. I know I appreciated those kinds of things. People thinking for me. Like I said, with being pregnant and stuff, I had OBGYN appointments I had to go to. And my friend Ann, she would call me every week and say, hey, do you have any appointments this week? Okay, why don't you drop Grace off and she can play with my son, and that way you don't have to worry about her being at the appointment with you and like that. And she just thought ahead to do that. Like
that's really nice.
Yeah,
because it's not like you really want to like reach out to somebody and be like, hey, I imagine it must have been kind of hard to even ask for help, like,
and people
people
would ask me like, what can we do to help you? What are your needs? I'm like,
and you're like,
I have no.
You're like, I don't know. I don't know how to put it in words.
I just need to get to nap time. Like,
can you
nap?
Right. Can you tell me how to help me, please? Goodness.
Meals. Like, I appreciated people bringing meals, not only in the beginning, but later down the road too.
Oh, I imagine.
I noticed like a trend usually around somewhere between 3 and 6 months, like your support, your like everybody comes right away in the beginning, but around 3 to 6 months, it starts to dwindle just because it's been a while. And it's just, life continues for everybody. But that's where I felt like, okay, I could really use like, a break, or I started to realize more of what was kind of going on or what life was going to be like. And but then also I had a newborn baby, so it was like
so
a little different, but you know what I mean? Like just.
Well, how do you recommend, like, if, friends were trying to have conversations with you, they wanted to reach out, but it's like, how do you kind of get over like, okay, I don't want this to be awkward, and how do we like, I don't want to necessarily tiptoe around the fact that your husband died, but like, how do we talk like normal people, like without, like it's so, I feel like that's where I would struggle. Like, I want to find good balance of like, how do I be supportive, but also like not, I obviously you don't only want to talk about the fact that your husband died,
I think just acting like treating them like normal. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Like, so would you tell them, hey, like, just talk to me like normal, please? I would probably need that. I'd be like, oh, okay, good. I got permission to just talk to you normal. Okay, good. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, like, don't feel like you have to tiptoe around. It's okay to say the person that, like, talk about the person that died or say their name. Like, and we're not going, sometimes I felt like people thought I was like this fragile piece of glass and that at any minute I was going to just like crumble and break.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that wasn't the case at all. But yeah, sometimes that might happen.
Right.
But
Or it's
You
like
know,
maybe not be afraid of a trigger. Like, I don't know. We were like, maybe let them know, like I might just start crying, but that's okay, right? Like, just, I
Just
don't
acknowledge it.
just be like,
acknowledge that
hey, it's
to cry.
okay. Yeah, like, okay.
but I don't know, like one of the greatest things was like I had, they had like a meal train for a little while set up for us, and people would bring meals that I really loved it when somebody said, hey, why don't you come over to my house and have dinner with us?
Oh,
Like,
that's
it
nice.
got me out of the house
Yeah.
with my kids. It gave me adult conversation,
Right.
which I wasn't getting a lot of because, I had a newborn and a toddler. And it was one less thing I had to do that night. Like, I didn't have to worry about meal prep and clean up and all that kind of stuff. And it was just nice to be like, hey, it's Lada. Like, like, hey, I want to have you guys over. I want you to be part of our life, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just normal kinds of things. Or, drop by with a cup of coffee and just like, hey, I was thinking of you. I brought this. And, maybe text them first before you just
Yeah.
Are you out of your pajamas yet?
I have friends who are widows that are in town too, and so like I'll think of them, and I don't know, I have leftovers, so I'll make a little package up and bring it over and just stop to say hi for a little bit and head back home, and they just know, hey, they're in my life, and if they need anything, I can call on them. Like, you just like a friend, right? I mean, you guys, it's kind of like when your husbands deploy, you rely on each other to get through, right?
Yep.
Like, you're in an area where you might not know a lot of people and you don't have family around, so you make family amongst the people in your squadron, and you kind of take care of each other. And it's the same thing with like widows or widowers. Like, we still need our support system. Our people are deployed forever.
Yeah.
And, every once in a while we need a break, or we need somebody just to vent with or laugh with or get a cup of coffee or have dinner or lunch or whatnot, have a play date. And like, our lives are still normal lives. They're just normal lives without our spouse. So yeah. I don't know. I think that did I
Yeah,
a little bit? Okay.
Great. Those are great. That's actually the one question that I was going to ask, and you answered it even prior to Victoria saying, like, just how do you handle it? How do you suggest handling it? And you answered that like perfectly. Those are such great tips and advice on how to walk with somebody, who may be going through that. And I know we'll try to carry those out. Hopefully, we don't have to meet many people along that way, but it's important to recognize that and acknowledge the truth of it. So
yeah.
Anything else that you would like to share with us today, Leigh or Victoria? Do you have any more questions?
I'm good. Yeah.
No, I think I'm good. Cup of boom,
right? Well, it's so awesome that we had this opportunity to talk to you. We try to leave things on a positive note, and I know there's a lot of sorrow that goes into this, but there's so many positive things that you did share with us today. If there was one thing that you could share with any military spouse, whether or not they have joined your Gold Star family, but what advice would you give to any military spouse if you could pick one thing?
Well, our not every day is guaranteed, right? I mean, our God has set a certain day that we would be born and a certain day that we'll die. And we don't know what that day is when we're going to go to our eternal state. And so just embrace every moment and look for the positive in it all. Like, maybe you're at a base that you really wish that you weren't there, or you wish you were closer to your family. Look for the good in it. Like, Nick and I always thought, Nick and I would always say whenever we would go to a new base or a new city, like, what a great adventure this is. Like, there's so much that we can learn from here or grow from, kind of looking at everything glass half full instead of half empty.
Yeah.
And that will help. That will help with your day to day, but it also will help you embrace that, your days are numbered, and I don't know if that's sounding positive, but
no, it is for sure.
To live each day as, to live each day with that glass half full, like, it's going to be good. This is a good place, and you'll be surprised at the friends that you make, and the great memories you'll have, and the blessings that will happen, whether you're going through a hard time or a good time. I mean, I met Michelle after the accident, and like, we kind of knew each other a little bit while we were at the same base, or at the same base in the same city. But it wasn't until afterwards, through Facebook, that we really kind of got to know each other more in our ministry areas, and our kids, and like, that connection and stuff. Like, it's amazing how God will provide all those things day to day for you. So just make every day count.
That's awesome.
We recently attended a memorial service, and one of the things that I've really hung on to from that service is that they kept saying, it was a life well lived, and, she left behind such beautiful memories and lived like every day to its fullest. So it just reiterates what you said, and I keep saying that over and over again. Like, I just want a life well lived. I want one that, someday that, people will be able to get up and share about me and just say she lived a great life, just keep hanging on to that. So I really appreciate hearing that from you too. And, I know that's so valuable. And I hope that if there is somebody who, may not be living that way now, they'll hear your words, and, they can hang on to those truths too. And maybe tomorrow will be a better day for them.
Yeah. That's
Yay.
awesome.
Well, this has been, truly an honor to talk to you, Leigh. And, I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it. You changed my life more ways than I can ever tell you. And I know that you're going to continue to impact so many and change the lives of everybody that listens to this and everybody that you cross paths with in the future. So we are just so thankful for you, your children, Nick, and all the other Gold Star families that, we haven't met yet, but we love them, and we honor you, and we thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Leigh.
Thank you.